Good morning students, welcome to Meso Study. So in this lecture of today's session we will be discussing about a new chapter. As we have discussed about the biotechnological principle and processes, in today's class I will be discussing about their application. The next chapter is biotechnology and its application. Biotechnology and its application. First of all, I would like to give you some brief introduction that we have already discussed in the previous class. Biotechnology is that field of science that has made possible to introduce foreign gene into any of the cells. When we can introduce any gene into a cell, that particular gene, they will start using the cycle, and what they will produce that particular desired gene. So how this gene is extracted, how this gene is incorporated, what are the different enzymes which are required, what are the different vectors which are required, that we have studied. Basically what we are doing, we are playing with the normal cell machinery. We are taking out that gene which is responsible for doing one particular function, and we bring that particular thing into your homes. For example, you can take any of the example. Suppose you want a particular machine to be there in your house, right? And you'll see that in your neighbor's house the same machine is there, and you know that because of, or suppose let's talk about dishwasher. Dishwasher is there in your neighbor's house, and you want that particular dishwasher should be there in your house as well. So how you will take out the dishwasher from their houses? Instead of buying that, what we will do, we'll steal that. So this is actually, it's nothing, it's just a stealing. We'll steal that particular dishwasher from their house, and again we'll bring back to your houses. So they will do the same function. Now that particular function will happen in your houses as well. So this is actually, this biotechnology is in the most easy way. Now we are talking about a gene. We have taken out the gene, we have inserted the gene into a host organism, and that gene will replicate along with the host machinery. They will translate and they will form what? Protein. So this is the whole basis. When we are talking about their applications are very, very, very huge. Some are in terms like, we have today the genetically modified organisms. What are genetically modified organisms? That means they are having a gene of interest. Or suppose what I want is that this particular crop should give me certain antibiotics as well. For example, in case, that's the first example of antibiotics. Second example, let's talk about Brassica napus. Today we have that Brassica that has a hirudin with them, and we know that the hirudin act as what? Anticoagulant. So can you see that how this is possible? Similarly, let's talk about another example like BT cotton. BT cotton are those crops which are produced because we have inserted a gene from Bacillus thuringiensis, and that produces BT toxin. Basically toxin they produce, due to which they are resistant to many pests like coleopteran, lepidopteran, etc. So that we will discuss in detail. Similarly, we have today's genetically modified organism in the terms of animals as well. We have today's those cows, buffaloes that can give more milk, because we are depending upon them for the milk only, and we have those genetically modified these as well. So can you see how much diversity is there? Can you see that how we are proceeding towards the modernization? Can you see that what exactly is happening, that our need, we are matching our need with the environment. It's not the case that we are looking for some high yield, rather than we make a high yield only, and we want that we should act like a god only, because we are making that particular organism that is more beneficial for us, which is more adapted, and that will give us more and more amount of goods. So this is the basic strategies that we will be talking about. I will be dealing about the application in terms of the agriculture. I will be dealing about the application in terms of industries, application in terms of some animals, resources, etc. Similarly, the same after this all has happened, the one more question they came that was related to the ethical issues. Ethical issues says that we don't have any right to modify any organism. Our ethics says that. So we have to adapt accordingly. We cannot change them. Nowadays, the different laws are there that we cannot modify one particular organisms. So we will be dealing with what are the different ethical issues which are there, why these ethical issues they do exist. So in this chapter, I have given you one brief overview in which direction we will proceed. As we are discussing about the biotechnology and its application, biotechnology is what? Suppose I have one cell. In that cell, the normal nucleus is there. In that nucleus, I can see the chromosomes are there. This is a chromosome. Chromosome is there. Similarly, this is a human cell. I know that this particular cell, this particular gene which is present in the chromosome, they give some desired effect. They give us insulin, they give us some hormones, etc. Now what I will do? I will take out that gene which is responsible for that. What I will do, suppose this is a gene. This is a gene. So I can call it as a gene of interest. Gene of interest. Gene of interest. What's the next procedure that I will follow is that, is it possible? Now listen to this very carefully. Our gene of interest is present in humans, right? Can I use these human cell, can I use this human as a resource for one particular product which is given by our gene of interest? Can I use that? Can I use human as a model organism? No, we cannot use a human as a model organism. Why? The reason is that a human takes around 70 years. It takes around 70 years. Culturing of a human cell is also not possible. It is possible, but it's not this much feasible. Very complex system they have. They need certain factors, etc. But they need growth factors and so many other factors as well. I'm not going in detail. So when we talk about the whole life cycle, that takes around 70 years, approximately 70 years. So if I'm doing some kind of experiment on the human cells, that means I have to wait for next generation. I have to see this till 70 years. Is that possible? Will I be able to survive till that time? No, not at all. Then can I take a human as a model organism? Can I take out our desired product from the human only? It's not at all possible. Not only these ways, ethical issues are also there. Whereas when we talk about certain bacteria, when we talk about the fungi or the plant cell, in those cases, chances of forming a 1 cell to 2 cell, 2 cell to 4 cell, 4 cell to 8 cell is a very fast procedure. Within a minute, within a second, numerous colonies they are formed. Like you must have seen in case of, you must have used breads in your houses. When it is there, when you keep the bread in a moist condition, in a dark condition, what do you see? That some molds, they started growing on that. Within 1 or 2 days, you will see that the whole colony, they will spread like any spread, like the whole bread piece will be covered by the green color fungi. This is what, these are the microorganisms that are growing. And you know that when you take a single, out of this, you will take a one forceps and you will take out one particular organism, and you will try to take out one particular organism, you will see that in that forceps only, the many of the organisms, microorganisms, they are attached. So they replicate at a very fast rate. The cell division is very fast. So we can take these microorganisms as a model organism, but we cannot use humans as a model organisms. So to make a multiple copies of my gene of interest, I always want a particular microorganism should be there that replicate very fast. Normally for the gene of interest, what we do, we take E. coli, Arabidopsis thaliana, we have so many other examples as well, Drosophila melanogaster, etc. We take that. But let's focus on the E. coli only. I have my gene of interest. I have to insert this gene of interest into an E. coli cell. But what I can do that, can I insert this like this only? No, we cannot insert, because chances that the death of our gene of interest can happen. But we don't want that, we want that they should insert directly. In those cases, we need certain vehicles, and in the previous class, we have discussed about those vehicles and what are the common name of those vehicles. They are called as a vector. For example, I am talking about a plasmid today. Extra chromosomal DNA is called as a plasmid. This is what a plasmid is. This is what a plasmid is. What I will do, I'll treat the both our gene of interest as well as plasmid with restriction endonucleases. Restriction endonucleases are what? They act on a specific site of the palindromic sequences. They cut at the specific palindromic sequences. They produce the same type of end in case of gene of interest and the plasmid. Similar cut will be there. After some time, what I'll see that our gene of interest has binded to the plasmid. So, a new recombinant plasmid formation will occur. I am not going in detail because we have already discussed. So, what will happen? Some structure which will be like this will be produced. This will be called as a recombinant plasmid. Now, what I will do, I know that the plasmid have a capability to infect E. coli cell. So, what I will do, I will take one E. coli cell, and plasmid is normally present in E. coli cell. So, I will take that cell in which the plasmid is not present. This plasmid, this recombinant plasmid will try to infect those plasmid. They will try to enter into E. coli. This is a E. coli which is having their own bacterial chromosome, and I have taken those E. coli cells which is plasmid free. So, can I write over here plasmid free? Plasmid free E. coli cells we have. What will happen? This plasmid, this recombinant plasmid will enter into the plasmid free, and they will synthesize, they will produce a multiple copies of cells. Multiple copies of cells will be produced, and what we will do with the help of downstream processing, like we have discussed in the previous class, multiple or the gene that is producing one particular product that will be collected. So, I am just writing over here the products will be collected out of the million copies of the cells or the recombinant cells or the E. coli cells. So, this is the whole procedure that we have followed in the previous class, in the previous chapter. Hope this whole procedure is clear to you. Now, what was the reason behind this application of the biotechnology? Let's discuss that. Now, the major problem that we are facing today, that we were facing at that time, is that the population was very high. Very drastic increase in population was there, and we were not able to make a relationship between those population and the environmental resources. Like food were not enough, or you can say that even other resources like water, etc., they were also not enough. So, a major revolution occurred in field of with the help of biotechnology. A major revolution occurred that include conventional breeding methods also, that include the modern breeding methods also, and we have prepared those varieties that will give you more yield, and they were resistant to many crops, many pests. Similarly, when we talk about how we can combat with the problem that we need a very large amount of the food grain, is that certain agrochemicals they were used. What were those agrochemicals? Like pesticides, like fungicides, insecticides, etc. They were used at that particular time. What is the use of the pesticides? Pesticides help in killing the pest because they decreases the yield. Similarly, fungicide, similarly we have insecticides, etc. So there was a drastic use of such chemicals. Another was incorporation of to move towards organic farming. Organic farming is that farming in which we can go for those, you can say, the pesticides which were not harmful for the human beings as well as those microorganisms which is beneficial for the soil. Not only they kill, they basically kill those pesticides, but they do not cause any kind of residual effect as per the whole environment is considered, right? So this was the major, that was the use of certain organic farming types of procedure, and we were at that time we were using biopesticides, biofungicides, bioinsecticides, etc. And that even we follow today organic farming today in a very good way. Nowadays you must have seen those stores near you in which it is written these are the organic rice, these are the organic pulses, etc. Though they are little costlier, but actually they do not cause any kind of harmful effect if we eat that, or and it doesn't cause any kind of harmful effect if to the environment as well. This was the second procedure that was followed. The third procedure, because of increase in a yield, was because of the use of genetically modified crops. Genetically modified crop, that means they have a gene of interest. Another is that they were resistant to many pests, right? So they were the using of genetically modified crops. Let's discuss about how we can increase the yield. Many reasons are there. First of all, use of agrochemicals. Use of agrochemicals. Can you name certain agrochemicals? Now, agro means agriculture, chemicals means chemicals. In the agriculture, whatever the chemicals we are using, they are called as agrochemicals. So I can write over here use of pesticides, use of pesticides, use of fungicide. Fungi means fungi, side means to kill. Similarly, pesti means pest, side means to kill. Use of pesticide, fungicide, insecticide. To kill pest that affect. I am basically mentioning over here affect means in a negative way, that affect yield and quality of crops. So earlier our major reliance was on the use of agrochemicals. Similarly, now we are moving towards organic farming. So this is one of the another reason, that means organic agriculture or farming. So second point we have is the organic agriculture farming. Organic agriculture and farming. In these cases, what we go for is that we use biopesticides. Use of biopesticide. Biopesticides. Bioinsecticides. Right. The major reason why we shifted from the agrochemicals to biopesticides or the bioinsecticide is that they do not cause any harm effect. do not cause any harmful effect to environment and humans. Now look at this. Initially, we were using agrochemicals like fungicide, insecticide. The major problem which was associated with the fungicide and insecticide was that they basically causes residual effect. They remain suspended in the environment. With the help of a water flow, we know that the agriculture water, whatever the surface runoff happens, they enter into the water bodies. From one water body, they enter into the second water body, and similarly these pesticides, they enter into the water cycle. As they enter into the water bodies, what will happen? The fishes, they cause a very drastic effect, a very negative effect on the fishes as well as aquatic organisms. So this was the major problem, whereas the organic farming, they do not cause any kind of harmful effect as per the environment and the humans they are considered. So this was the second procedure, and basically what we are going for, we want a further yield. Now let's talk about the third important point, that is related to genetically modified organism. Introduction of biotechnology, or whatever you can write. With the introduction of biotechnological tool, what we have today is genetically modified organisms. Genetically modified organisms. We have genetically modified fungi, we have genetically modified bacteria, animals, etc. And these are genetically modified. We are discussing about the yield only. Let's discuss about genetically modified crops. Genetically modified crops. Can you name some genetically modified crops? Of course, we have BT cotton, BT brinjal, BT cotton, BT brinjal, we have Brassica napus, they are also modified, etc. And what is the function of these genetically modified crop? Various functions are there depending upon the crops. Some are pest resistant. If there is a pest resistant crop, that means the yield is very high. Some produce high yield crops. Some of the plants, they have some medicinal value like that of the Brassica napus. In the Brassica napus, we have introduced gene for hirudin. And hirudin is what? Hirudin is anticoagulant. Anticoagulant. It's an anticoagulant, right? So can I write over here medicinal crop? Medicinal crops, etc. So these are the certain things, these are the certain ways by which we can increase the yield, we can increase the quality. First, with the use of the agri-chemicals, second with the use of organic, introduction of organic farming, and third most important that we are working today is the genetically modified crops. I haven't discussed much about the BT cotton, pest resistant Brassica napus. Don't worry about that, I'll definitely discuss this, but in subsequent sessions. So as we are discussing about this whole procedure, now let's talk about one more important thing that is related to the Green Revolution. What was the reason for Green Revolution? Let's discuss that. Before going in detail, I would like to discuss who was the first who is considered as a father of Green Revolution. Father of Green Revolution is Norman Ernest Borlaug. Right. In 20th century, this Green Revolution was introduced, and this is the father of Green Revolution. Father of Green Revolution. N.E. Borlaug. He's a father of Green Revolution. Now, what was a Green Revolution? Because of the increase in the population, the major problem that overall the whole world faced, the problem was related to the food. The scarcity of the food was there. Whatever the food was available, that was not enough to meet the requirement of the population that was present at that particular time. And the Green Revolution happened. In those cases, now this is not a day process, this is not a 2-day process. Actually, this happened because of some changes. Like earlier, we were not using any kind of the pesticide. Green Revolution is that time when we were using the pesticides, insecticides, etc. That means use of agrochemicals. So because of that, the pests, they were not able to attack, so there was increase in the yield. Another was that agriculture practices, irrigation practices, they were improved. So this was the second reason, that is increase in the irrigation practices, and we have maintained a good drainage as compared to the conventional methods in which we were not using any kind of the drainage methods. Proper drainage was there, no water logging was there. This was another reason. Third reason for the Green Revolution was that we were using high yield variety of crops. Right, and this was the first one, and this Green Revolution was seen in case of Mexico and Indian subcontinent, countries of Indian subcontinent. Indian subcontinent. It was seen over there, and the major reason for the Green Revolution was introduction of high yield crops, introduction of high yield crop, first reason. Second reason was use of agrochemicals. Agrochemical means use of pesticides, fungicide, insecticide, etc. You can write all of these over here. Another reason was good irrigation practices or introduction of modern irrigation practices. Modern irrigation practices, right? Good drainage system was there. So this was a 3 reason. Because of that, this Green Revolution came, and this happened during the 20th century. This happened during the 20th century, right? So this was a Green Revolution. Why this didn't happen in case of the developing countries? What was the major problem that developing countries face in regard of the Green Revolution? Why this was not introduced over there? This was not happened over there. So that all we'll discuss in the next class. So students, so this is all about today's lecture. I have given you one introductory session regarding this biotechnological application. In the subsequent sessions, I will be dealing about the application in case of the different field. So thank you so much students for watching this. We'll meet in next session.